The air was thick with anticipation on this Tuesday evening, the 10th of June, 2025. Under the gleaming floodlights of the King Baudouin Stadium in Brussels, two proud footballing nations prepared for a battle of immense significance. On one side stood Belgium, the Red Devils, a team brimming with world-class talent and ranked among the very best on the planet. Managed by the astute Domenico Tedesco, they were a side expected to dominate, to win, and to do so with style. Their lineup was a who's who of European football giants, with the creative genius of Kevin De Bruyne pulling the strings in midfield, the raw power of Romelu Lukaku leading the line, and the electric pace of Jeremy Doku, ready to terrorize defenses. They were playing on home soil, with a passionate crowd roaring them on, expecting nothing less than a commanding victory. Facing them were the Welsh, the Dragons, a team renowned for their unbreakable spirit and fierce national pride. Led by their passionate manager Craig Bellamy, Wales arrived in Brussels as the underdogs, a role they have historically embraced and often thrived in. Bellamy, a fiery competitor in his playing days, had instilled a relentless work ethic and a never-say-die attitude into his squad. While they might not have had the same depth of star power as their opponents, they possessed quality in key areas. Players like Harry Wilson with his magical left foot and the energetic Brennan Johnson with his blistering speed gave them a potent threat on the counter-attack. The stakes were incredibly high, with crucial qualification points on the line, and the Welsh were determined to prove they could stand toe-to-toe with the elite. The contrast in styles and expectations set up a fascinating encounter. Belgium were the artists, expected to paint a masterpiece of attacking football on the Brussels canvas. Their game plan revolved around possession, quick interchanges, and exploiting the individual brilliance of their star players. Wales, on the other hand, were the warriors. Their strategy was built on defensive solidity, tactical discipline, and hitting their opponents with swift, decisive breaks. They knew they would likely have to endure long periods without the ball, soaking up pressure and waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The atmosphere was electric, a mix of Belgian confidence and Welsh defiance, as the two teams emerged from the tunnel, ready for a contest that would test both skill and heart. This was more than just a football match, it was a test of character. For Belgium, it was about living up to their golden generation's promise and asserting their dominance in front of their adoring fans. A slip-up was unthinkable. For Wales, it was an opportunity to make a statement, to show the world that their spirit could bridge any gap in perceived talent. Craig Bellamy stood on the touchline, a picture of intensity, knowing that his players would need to give every ounce of their being to get a result. As the referee's whistle echoed around the stadium to signal kickoff, nobody could have predicted the incredible drama that was about to unfold over the next 90 minutes. From the very first whistle, Belgium played with an authority that bordered on arrogance, but it was an arrogance born from supreme confidence in their own abilities. They settled into their rhythm immediately, their passing crisp and their movement fluid. The Welsh players found themselves chasing shadows as the ball zipped across the slick turf, with Kevin De Bruyne at the heart of everything. He drifted into pockets of space, his head constantly up, scanning for openings. Alongside him, Youri Tielemans and Amadou Onana controlled the midfield battleground, recycling possession with effortless ease and snuffing out any Welsh attempts to build momentum. The home crowd roared with every successful pass, sensing that their team was in the mood for a big performance. The pressure on the Welsh defence was immense and unrelenting. The Belgian attackers, a trident of pace, power and trickery, were causing all sorts of problems. On the left wing, Jeremy Doku was a whirlwind of activity, his quick feet and explosive acceleration leaving defenders in his wake. On the right, Leandro Trossard cut inside with intelligence, his link-up play with De Bruyne creating dangerous overloads. And through the middle, Romelu Lukaku was a colossal presence, using his strength to hold up the ball and bring his teammates into play, constantly occupying the Welsh centre-backs. It felt like a siege, with wave after wave of red shirts pouring forward, probing for a weakness in the Welsh rearguard. Craig Bellamy's game plan to stay compact and frustrate the hosts was being tested to its absolute limit. The Welsh players worked tirelessly, throwing themselves into tackles and making crucial blocks, but the sheer quality of the Belgian side was overwhelming. Every time Wales managed to clear their lines, the ball seemed to come straight back, propelled forward by the Belgian midfield machine. The Dragons were pinned deep inside their own half, unable to find an outball to relieve the suffocating pressure. The feeling inside the stadium was that a goal was not a matter of if, but when. The Belgian dominance was total and the opening goal felt inevitable. The breakthrough finally came in the 12th minute, a goal that was a perfect illustration of Belgium's attacking prowess. It started, as so many of their moves do, with De Bruyne. He picked up the ball just inside the Welsh half, glided past one challenge, and slid a perfectly weighted pass down the left channel for Doku. The winger took the ball in his stride, drove at his fullback, and with a breathtaking drop of the shoulder, created a yard of space. His low, hard cross fizzed across the face of the goal. And there was Jeremy Doku himself, having continued his run to tap the ball into the empty net from close range. The stadium erupted. It was a goal of stunning speed and precision, and a sign of things to come. With the deadlock broken, Belgium's confidence soared to new heights. They played with a swagger, a freedom that made them even more dangerous. The first goal had opened the floodgates, and the Welsh defence, which had held so firm for the opening exchanges, now looked vulnerable. Just 10 minutes after Doku's opener, the Red Devils doubled their advantage. This time, the goal came from their talismanic striker, Romelu Lukaku. The move was initiated by a driving run from Amadou Onana, who powered through the midfield before finding Leandro Trossard. Trossard's clever pass inside found De Bruyne, who, with a single touch, lofted a delicate chip over the top of the Welsh backline, perfectly into the path of Lukaku's run. The big striker made no mistake. He held off his marker with immense physical strength, allowed the ball to drop over his shoulder, and unleashed a thunderous volley with his left foot that flew past the helpless Welsh goalkeeper and bulged the back of the net. It was a goal of pure power and clinical finishing, a demonstration of why Lukaku is one of the most feared forwards in world football. The Belgian players celebrated together, a sea of red joy, while the Welsh players looked at each other in disbelief. They had been completely outplayed, and now, not even halfway through the first half, they found themselves staring down the barrel of a heavy defeat. The home fans were in dreamland, chanting their heroes' names. The assault did not stop there. Belgium were relentless, sensing an opportunity to put the game to bed before the halftime whistle. They continued to press forward, their passing triangles bewildering the beleaguered Welsh midfield. The third goal arrived in the 35th minute, and it was arguably the best of the lot. A true team goal that showcased the beauty of their football. It involved a patient, mesmerizing build-up of over 20 passes, moving the ball from one side of the pitch to the other, pulling the Welsh formation completely out of shape. Finally, the ball reached Yuri Tielemans, who played a quick 1-2 with De Bruyne before threading a pass to the feet of Lukaku inside the penalty area. Instead of shooting, Lukaku showed great awareness, laying the ball off with a deft backheel into the path of the on-rushing Leandro Trossard. The Arsenal man arrived at pace and, without breaking stride, curled a magnificent first-time shot into the top corner of the net. It was a finish of sublime quality, the exclamation point on a period of utter dominance. 3-0 to Belgium. The game looked over as a contest. As the teams walked off for halftime, the Belgian players were applauded enthusiastically, while the Welsh team trudged towards the tunnel, their heads bowed, facing a monumental task to salvage anything from the wreckage of the first half. The halftime whistle could not have come soon enough for Wales. Inside the visiting dressing room, the atmosphere was somber. They had been completely dismantled by a ruthless Belgian side, and the prospect of a second-half humiliation loomed large. But Craig Bellamy was not a man to let his team surrender. Instead of anger, he chose inspiration. He reminded his players of the dragon on their chests, of the pride of their nation, and of the spirit that had seen them overcome adversity so many times before. He made a couple of tactical tweaks, bringing on the energetic Sorba Thomas to provide more width and directness, but his main message was one of belief. He urged them to win the second half, to restore their pride, regardless of the final score. As the Welsh players re-emerged onto the pitch, there was a noticeable change in their demeanour. Their shoulders were back, their expressions were set with determination. They had nothing left to lose, and this freedom seemed to unshackle them from the fear that had plagued their first half performance. They started the second half with a renewed sense of purpose, pressing Belgium higher up the pitch and playing with an aggression that had been sorely lacking before the break. They began winning their 50-50 challenges, and started to string together some passes of their own, reminding the Belgians that they were still in a contest. The home side, perhaps a little complacent with their 3-goal cushion, seemed taken aback by this sudden Welsh resurgence. Their passing became a little less precise, their movements a little less sharp. The introduction of Sorba Thomas was proving to be a masterstroke by Bellamy. His pace and willingness to run at his full back gave Wales a much-needed outlet, stretching the Belgian defence and creating space for others. The small contingent of travelling Welsh fans, who had been quiet for much of the game, found their voice again. They sang with renewed passion, urging their team on, sensing a subtle shift in the momentum of the match. The first glimmer of hope arrived in the 55th minute. It came from a moment of individual brilliance from Harry Wilson. The Fulham attacker picked up the ball about 30 yards from goal, cut inside onto his favoured left foot, and with very little backlift, unleashed a stunning, dipping shot that swerved viciously in the air. The Belgian goalkeeper, Koen Casteels, was caught completely by surprise. He dived despairingly to his right, but the ball flew past his outstretched hand and nestled into the corner of the net. It was a bolt from the blue, a goal of incredible quality that suddenly changed the complexion of the game. The Welsh players rushed to congratulate Wilson, their belief now visibly surging. Harry Wilson's spectacular goal was the catalyst. It was a spark that ignited a fire within the Welsh team. The impossible suddenly felt possible. The Belgian players, who had been cruising so comfortably, now looked rattled. Passes started to go astray, and a nervous tension crept into their play. The home crowd, once so boisterous, grew quiet and anxious. They had seen this before. Their golden generation had a tendency to be fragile when put under pressure. Wales, meanwhile, were playing like a team possessed, feeding off the energy of their goal and the renewed hope that filled the air. They hunted in packs, closing down space and forcing errors from their illustrious opponents. Craig Bellamy, sensing the momentum shift, was a whirlwind of motion on the sideline, kicking every ball and barking instructions to his players. He urged them forward, demanding more intensity, more desire. His passion was mirrored on the pitch by his players. The second goal, when it came just 8 minutes later, was a testament to this newfound belief and a reward for their tactical shift. It was born from pure persistence. Brennan Johnson chased down what looked like a lost cause near the corner flag, managing to win the ball back from a hesitant Belgian defender before whipping in a dangerous low cross towards the near post. The cross was met by the substitute, Sorba Thomas. He had gambled with his run, darting in front of his marker, and his bravery paid off. He met the ball with a clever flicked header that guided it past the goalkeeper and into the far corner of the net. The Welsh bench erupted in celebration, and the travelling fans went into delirium. From 3-0 down, they were now just 1 goal behind at 3-2. The comeback was well and truly on. The Belgian players looked stunned, their faces a picture of confusion and frustration. The fortress of the King Baudouin Stadium was suddenly shaking, not from the cheers of the home support, but from the roar of the defiant Welsh dragon. The game had been turned completely on its head. The assured, dominant Belgium of the first half had vanished, replaced by a team that looked panicked and disjointed. Wales, on the other hand, were transformed. They were no longer the timid underdogs. They were the protagonists, driving the narrative forward. Every attack they launched carried a sense of menace, and every defensive stand was met with a roar of approval from their supporters. The psychological advantage had swung dramatically in favour of the visitors, who now smelled blood and were pushing relentlessly for an equaliser that had seemed unthinkable just 20 minutes earlier. The pressure from Wales was now suffocating. Belgium's composure had completely deserted them. Simple passes were misplaced, and clearances were hurried. The confidence that had defined their first-half performance had evaporated, replaced by a palpable sense of fear. The Welsh players, buoyed by their 2 quick-fire goals, continued to pour forward. They played with a collective spirit that was overwhelming their opponents, who seemed to be playing as 11 talented individuals rather than a cohesive unit. The equalising goal, when it arrived in the 78th minute, felt almost destined to happen, a culmination of Wales' incredible second-half fight-back. The move began deep in their own half, with Ethan Ampadu winning a crunching tackle to halt a rare Belgian attack. He quickly moved the ball to Joe Rodon, who, instead of clearing it long, played a calm, composed pass into midfield. A quick interchange saw the ball worked out to the left flank, where Neco Williams surged forward. He looked up and spotted the clever run of Brennan Johnson, who had peeled away from his marker and was accelerating into the space behind the Belgian defence. Williams delivered a perfectly weighted through ball that split the centre-backs and sent Johnson racing clear on goal. The Nottingham Forest forward showed incredible composure as he bore down on the Belgian goal. With the goalkeeper rushing out to narrow the angle, Johnson looked up and with a cool head, slotted the ball low and hard into the bottom right-hand corner of the net. The stadium fell into a stunned silence, punctured only by the ecstatic screams from the small corner of Welsh supporters. It was 3-3. The comeback was complete. Johnson slid on his knees towards the corner flag, consumed by pure joy, as his teammates piled on top of him in a jubilant heap. They had climbed a mountain, achieving what everyone had deemed impossible at halftime. On the touchline, Craig Bellamy punched the air with unbridled emotion, his face a mask of pride and delight. He had masterminded one of the most remarkable comebacks in his nation's recent history. The Belgian players, meanwhile, stood motionless, looking at the ground, their 3-goal lead having vanished into thin air. Domenico Tedesco watched on from his technical area, his expression one of sheer disbelief. The game, which had seemed won, was now hanging precariously in the balance, with just over 10 minutes of normal time left to play. The drama was far from over. The atmosphere inside the King Baudouin Stadium had transformed into a cauldron of raw nerves. The equalizing goal had sent shockwaves through the stands, silencing the home support and fueling the defiant chants of the Welsh fans. The final 10 minutes of the match were played on a knife's edge, with the tension so thick you could almost feel it. Every pass was fraught with danger, every tackle carried the weight of the result. The game became stretched and frantic, as both teams, exhausted but desperate for a winner, threw caution to the wind. It was end-to-end action, a thrilling spectacle for the neutral, but an agonizing experience for the supporters of both nations. Belgium, shocked out of their complacency, tried to reassert their authority. They pushed forward, seeking to reclaim the lead they had so carelessly thrown away. Kevin De Bruyne, who had been relatively quiet during the Welsh onslaught, began to demand the ball, trying to orchestrate one final, decisive attack. He drove at the Welsh defence, his mind working furiously to find a chink in the now resolute armour of the Dragons. Romelu Lukaku battled valiantly up front, but the Welsh centre-backs, led by the colossal Joe Rodon, were now winning every duel, clearing every cross with a renewed sense of purpose and organisation. Wales, however, were not content to simply hold on for a draw. Buoyed by their incredible comeback, they sensed a historic victory was within their grasp. They continued to pose a significant threat on the counter-attack. The pace of Brennan Johnson and the energy of Sorba Thomas meant the Belgian defence could never relax. In the 85th minute, Wales almost found a winner. A swift break saw Johnson feed the ball to Harry Wilson on the edge of the box. He shifted the ball onto his left foot and curled a shot towards the far corner. But this time the Belgian keeper was equal to it, diving at full stretch to push the ball around the post for a corner. As the clock ticked down towards the 90th minute, the game became a war of attrition. Legs were heavy and minds were tired. Players on both sides were running on pure adrenaline. A draw would have felt like a victory for Wales and a crushing defeat for Belgium, a sentiment that was palpable around the ground. The fourth official's board went up, indicating 4 minutes of added time. It was 4 more minutes of unbearable tension, 4 more minutes for a hero to emerge, for one final twist in this most extraordinary of tales. The fate of the match hung by the thinnest of threads. In moments of extreme pressure, the greatest players deliver. As the game entered its final 2 minutes of normal time, with the score locked at 3-3 and chaos reigning on the pitch, one man remained an island of calm. Kevin De Bruyne had watched his team's commanding lead disintegrate, but he was not about to let the night end in disappointment. He had been probing and searching all second half for that one decisive opening, and now, with time running out, he took it upon himself to conjure something truly special. It was a moment that would break Welsh hearts and remind the world of his unparalleled genius. The move began innocuously enough, with a simple pass in midfield. De Bruyne received the ball about 35 yards from the Welsh goal, with a wall of red shirts in front of him. For a moment it seemed there was nowhere for him to go. The Welsh midfield, which had worked so tirelessly, swarmed around him. But De Bruyne saw a picture that no one else on the pitch could see. He dropped his shoulder, creating a half-yard of space, and then, with a burst of acceleration, he drove past two despairing Welsh challengers. The move had taken him from a standing start to the edge of the penalty area in the blink of an eye. The Welsh defence scrambled to close him down, but it was too late. De Bruyne had already picked his spot. As he approached the D at the edge of the box, he didn't even seem to look up. He simply drew back his right foot and struck the ball with a combination of power and surgical precision. The shot was low and hard, arrowing through a crowd of players. The Welsh goalkeeper, unsighted until the last second, dived low to his left, but the ball was past him before he could react. It nestled perfectly into the bottom corner of the net, sparking pandemonium among the Belgian players and their tormented fans. It was a goal worthy of winning any match, a moment of individual brilliance that single-handedly decided an epic contest. De Bruyne ran towards the corner flag, a look of intense relief and triumph on his face as his teammates mobbed him. He had rescued his team from the brink of embarrassment, delivering the final decisive blow in a heavyweight contest. For Wales, it was a moment of utter heartbreak. They had fought back so bravely, so magnificently, only to be denied a famous result by a piece of magic from one of the world's best players. The final whistle blew shortly after, confirming a 4-3 victory for Belgium in a match that will live long in the memory. The sound of the final whistle was met with a complex mix of emotions. For the Belgian players and fans, there was an overwhelming sense of relief. They had secured the 3 points, but the manner of their victory left much to be desired. They had been exposed, their defensive frailties laid bare by a determined Welsh side. While De Bruyne's moment of genius had saved them, manager Domenico Tedesco knew he had serious questions to answer. The collapse from a 3-0 lead highlighted a lack of mental fortitude that could be fatal against stronger opposition in the future. Moving forward, Belgium must learn to manage games better and maintain their concentration for the full 90 minutes if they are to fulfill their potential. For Wales, the result was agonizingly painful, but their performance was a source of immense pride. In defeat, they had won the hearts of many. The spirit and resilience they showed in the second half were truly remarkable. Craig Bellamy's influence on the team was clear to see. He had instilled a belief and a tactical flexibility that allowed them to compete with one of the world's best teams on their own turf. The Welsh players could leave the pitch with their heads held high, knowing they had given everything for the cause. The comeback served as a powerful statement that this Welsh team, even without some of the star names of the past, possesses a character that can never be underestimated. The performances of individuals on the Welsh side were particularly encouraging. Harry Wilson's goal was a moment of pure quality, while Sorba Thomas made a huge impact from the bench. Brennan Johnson's goal, a reward for his tireless running and composure, further cemented his status as a key player for the future. These players, under Bellamy's guidance, form the nucleus of a team that can continue to challenge and upset the odds. The pain of the last-minute defeat will sting, but it will also serve as a powerful motivator, fueling their desire to go one better the next time they face an elite opponent. They prove to themselves and the world that they belong at this level. Ultimately, this thrilling 4-3 encounter will be remembered as a classic. It was a game that had everything: sublime skill, a dramatic comeback, and a moment of late decisive magic. For Belgium, it was a vital win, but also a stark warning. For Wales, it was a heartbreaking loss, but a performance that promised a bright future. As both teams continue their respective journeys, they will carry the lessons of this unforgettable night in Brussels. It was a match that perfectly encapsulated the beauty of football, its unpredictability, its emotional highs and lows, and its unique ability to produce incredible drama when you least expect it.